All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm seeing folks join in, so I'll go ahead and get things kicked off here to start the webinar. My name is Eric Walmerink, in case I haven't met you before, and I am a product manager over here at Decisions. And so my current job responsibilities revolve around making sure that Decisions is enhancing and adding new features and building the things really that we care about. And so just some exciting news from my end, from the product management side. We are officially announcing and beta testing our version 9 release, which has a bunch of really, really cool updates coming. So I'm happy to talk a little bit about that, but that's not the purpose of today's call. Today's call is our Lunch and Learn. So quick overview, if you've never been before, our Lunch and Learn is a time where you get a decisions expert in one of the areas of decisions on a call for an hour during our lunch break to just talk anything and all things related to decisions. We can talk about issues you've faced. We can talk about how to do stuff in the portal. Since I'm a product manager, you can talk about next major releases and roadmap things. But yeah, it's just a time for you to sit and you can ask questions and talk about things. So the way this works is I'll sit here on the call. You can post your questions in the webinar chat or the question and answer panel in Zoom. There's the buttons at the bottom of the webinar. Or if you'd prefer to chat a little bit about some of these things and talk about it, you can actually raise your hand in the participants panel and we can let you come off mute and talk a little bit about that. So that's kind of why we're here and what we're doing. And then just as a last little, just a note, yeah, about myself. That's what I was going to do. Sorry, I got distracted for a second. Last little note, I've done a little bit of everything at Decision, so no questions off limit. I actually started as a junior developer, but my code writing skills are less than poor, so they moved me over to support and professional services. I did our IT security ops compliance. I led our doc team for a while. I did a lot of our training for about 6 years, traveling around the world. So I've gotten a chance to see all aspects of decisions. So mainly that's just to say
Just email Eric for
nothing
his
is
resume.
off
That's basically what he's
limits.
saying.
So, nope, you saying something, Jared?
Yeah, I said just email Eric for his resume. That's basically what you're saying.
No, I've been here 10 years. I'm too scared to leave or go do anything different at this point. So,
That's true.
yeah, joining a new job would be terrifying. So, no, not accepting headhunters today. Oh man, you jerk. Anyway, yeah, so we did have a couple pre-submitted questions come in. I'm gonna start with those, but again, please feel free to post in the chat or raise your hand or if you have anything you want to see outside of this, but I will go ahead and dive in here. Let me scroll back a little bit. I went too far. All right, here's the first one. The first question came in, and I see that you're on the call, sir. It says, can we move requests to different reports according to status? For example, if the request is in an approved status, then it should be in a report. If it's under a different status, like process review, then it should be in a different report. Yeah, totally, absolutely. Let me go ahead and dive in. I started to build a really quick environment use case here where I could build some of these things for you. So yeah, I'm going to be in the portal. By the way, just as a note, I am on the latest version, the beta version of it. So if there's any kind of weird issues or bugs, that's why. Also, if you see things that look drastically different from your environments, that's why. All the functionality that I'm going to display and talk about will be exactly the same. So nothing will change here. So first and foremost, what do I have here? I have a really simple project. There's not much inside of it. I have a data structure here called claims. All claims is a couple of fields that you would expect to see on like an insurance claim, a person, a deductible, what the total loss amount is, and what date, etc. And then I wrote a really simple flow to just generate a few records in my database. So I have something to report on. So we can build out this example. And then the very last thing I did is I built a report of all my claims, which again, relatively simple. It's just listing out those fields so that we have something to talk about. So that's where I'm starting from today. Now, to the actual question. How do I show different reports based on statuses and like maybe even have some connectivity between two that shows data on one or another? And that's yeah, we can do this a couple of different ways. Now, the way I'll start with, since this is a report of all claims, I'm actually just going to go ahead and copy this by copying my existing reports. And instead of doing a report of all claims, I'm going to do a report of claims in submitted state, right? Because we're going to have some sort of logic that changes what things we're showing here. So If I want to limit what's shown in a report, you do it with filters in the top bar here. Filters can be run on any individual field that exists on the data structure. They could be run against where it lives in the decisions portal or its infrastructure in the decisions platform. So this is important for things like folders and entities. Or I can even write like my own filter based on a rule. So I can write a statement rule that would filter and change data on my report. So I'm going to start with the simplest of the use cases here, and we'll expand in a moment, which is let's just filter by maybe a couple statuses. Maybe I know I said submitted, but maybe we'll do ones that are submitted and under review, right? Like things that we need to take action on. So I can say, does the status column, this field, is it in a list of options? And you'll see when I add the filter, the data gets cleared. And I get my properties on the right-hand side to configure this filter. Now I can check this bottom checkbox that says, hey, if I don't provide a filter value, don't show anything here. But I also can come into here and say, only show me things that are submitted. And what did I say? Let's do needs approval, right? I add those two things back in, it filters them out. And that's it to really make a really simple filters. Now I'll show some additional properties in a sec, but if I just run this report, you'll see that it's all my claims, but I've set a filter that says we're hiding it by status and those two states in that status field. Now, excuse me. Additionally, if I want to let my users play with these filters, I can change the behavior of this. Not runtime editable means that it's filtered before the report is loaded, but I also can say that this is runtime editable, meaning that when a user runs the report, they'll actually be able to modify this list. Now, this in this case is just text, so they would have to know that one of the states is like completed. But if they did that and clicked apply, oh, maybe it's just complete. See, this is where spelling is bad. There we go. If I change the filter value, my report is going to update with that updated filter value. And you have a bunch of control over that. Like I made it runtime editable. You also can make it a distinct list. Like I could change the type of filter here and make it so that it's a drop down that my users pick from and not just free text they're typing in. But that's the first idea. So that's part of the setup. Let's copy this just real quick and make another report that is, reports, or sorry, I guess they will say report of claims complete or pending payment, I think was the other filter. And I'm just going to come in here, modify this to, what did I say, payment needed? Oh, shoot. I'm going to need to duplicate my tab. Payment pending? Payment needed? Oh, all right. Well, I guess I could do this real simple. I could just delete this. Payment pending. Okay. Payment pending, and we'll say complete. There we go. Now I can see these things here. Now that's, again, part of just the setup. I have two reports. Let's throw them on a page very quickly. Page of claims. You guys are getting to see the most basic of Eric building, which is always a treat. So we're going to do one report on this side. This is going to be maybe my submitted state claims. We'll do a report on this side. This is going to be my pending payment and complete claims, right? Simple dashboard. Maybe I put tiles and actions at the top to start claims or do whatever. But now if I take this page, let's go ahead and place this. Let's add a new folder here. Call this my dashboard. And let's display this page here. If anything I'm doing, you have questions on, I'm just building really fast. So if you have any questions on this stuff, please let me know. But here's the idea. I click it, I could see page of claims. I now see two different reports, one that has things in one status, one that has things in a completely separate status. Now, the question was, how do I, if the request is in a approved state, it should be in a report. And if it's in a different state, it should be in another report. Yes, totally. So that's all I've done is I've created different reports that filter based on different values. Now, if I wanted to, like, as I take action on these things, move them, I could create a really simple action, and spoiler alert, I already did. There's a really simple right-click action on all my claims called move to payment pending. It does nothing except move the status column, but this could obviously be a proper workflow process. This could show forms, this could create tasks, it could send emails, do whatever it needs to do. For now, it's just going to literally just change the state column. So now when I go look at that page here, if I go to any of these needs approvals and say, hey, we're going to move this to payment pending, I click this. I have not set up refresh on my reports, but I could to let that automatically refresh. But if I click refresh on both of these, I'll see that that one now moved over to payment pending. And there's page settings rather that I could come into here and have it automatically refresh. So there's under, is it behavior review? I always get this mixed up. It is under behavior. I can set up what my refresh criteria is. Like if one of my contained things changes or someone sends a data over or a trigger over to do those things. But that hopefully answers the first part of your question, right? How do you show it between different ones? Well, you create different reports with different status filters on them. And then you can either let users mess with those filters, let users change those filters, or you can actually send the filter value in from like another source, like another report or a flow, and that will then give you that filtered kind of comparison between the two. Now, I saw a question come in the chat, but before I answer it, there's a second question that actually I think is tied really, really closely. So I'm going to answer that one first. So sorry, Gunnar. But it says, how do we filter the dashboard data based on specific states? A very similar question. For example, our dashboard A has pending states, compare states to rejected, and it's different dashboard. We need to show and filter out after 5 days. So this one has a little bit of a trigger, or a little bit more interesting. So the only difference between the two is that we're adding another filter, right? So I've separated these two by states, but now we're saying, but also I need some sort of calculation, like after 5 days. Let's go look at our report. I'll just grab this first one, complete or pending payment. And there's a couple ways we could do this. If I go look at my field filters claim date ones, I can say what sort of filter do I want, and I can combine two filters together. So I can say if claim date, so I want to, I always got to think about this really hard. If I want to keep it in, I need it to be true. So I want to know things that are greater than 5 days ago. Okay. Sorry. So claim date is greater than or equal to or greater than. And then I can go ahead and choose a value here. Now I can hard code the value to say it's always a certain date. If I want to do something a little bit more is it this one? Define date? No. Oh, I have to do it by a rule filter. Bummer. I thought we could fix it here. If I wanted to do something more dynamic, so it's always looking 5 days in the past, I think the easiest way to do this is just going to be a rule filter that we write. And very simply, we can write a rule that says, we need to create a new rule that says filter by 5 days ago, right? All this is going to take in as input data is our date. Boop. Okay, then I write my rule condition. So rules, there should have an info panel. Anyway, rules that if you evaluate it's true, you keep the data. So I'm going to say if my date is greater than or equal to, now I can run some calculation because I have my whole mapping editor. So I can compute a date in the past, starting today, and offsetting it 5 days. And this is, oh, let's just type that in because that's a crazy control. Oops. So just this is part of our mapping editor. If you're mapping into dates, you can do this mapping type called compute date and calculate a time in the past or the future for stuff exactly like we're doing. So I do this. I connect it to my date column really quick. So I say, yep, you're actually going to use the claim date as the variable there. And now, I'm not sure if any are going to filter out. I just realized that. All those claims were 5 days ago. I'm gonna say I did it correct, even though I don't remember my data well enough to say, yeah, all of these are in the future. That was terrible date creation. I calculated all these to the future. But yeah, that's the idea. Really, the point that I want to make here is that these filters that you're creating it was on this one, right? These filters you're creating can be combined. So now this is looking for both status and rule filter, and I can even add more and some other column, and if my loss is greater than, and you can combine all these together. You can even do OR logic between filters. So it's a little bit of a setup, but I could say, I need to know if the status is in list filter or it's my custom rule filter. And now it's doing OR logic to do all the filtering here. So yeah, hopefully that, oh, I saw a clarifying question. Hopefully that answers some of it. Let's see what the question is. For this question also, if we need to put all states in the same report, leave pending states as is, and filter by date age for complete states. Let me read that again and make sure I understand. Oh, sorry, hopefully I muted fast enough before I coughed. If we need to put all the states in the same report, to leave pending states as is and filter by date age for just for completed states. Yeah, no problem. I mean, I would still do it with this rule filter. So this rule filter currently generically is just looking if the date's greater than, but now I would modify this to also take in status as a field into my filter. And then I would write a second condition here that's, and also status is equal to, or I guess it'd be or status is equal to, no, this would be right. Status is equal to complete. So now all this rule is saying, it's still the same place, the same filter, but it's saying only filter out things that are older than 5 days ago and complete, right? I think that's what your question was driving towards. So I do that. I have to go update the mapping here just to make sure that I fix status. And then if I had good data in my actual database, that you'd be able to see this work out as well. But that would be the idea. This whole combining of filters, using ORs, adding it did filter some stuff out. Using other things inside of here. Oh, it only filtered out complete because it said it has to be complete. Got it. Anyway, I could come in here and do a lot more. So yes, all of that logic, whatever you're trying to do to make it work, you can do either combining the existing entity filters, which are just simple evaluations against members, right? Contains, equals, greater than, less than, or by doing something a little more complex, you can write a rule here and just say, hey, I think what I actually wanted to do is add like an either or group here. And make it work this way. Can I just copy this whole thing? I never know if this works. Hey, it did work. Look at that. Every once in a while, our platform does the thing I expect it to. Or the status is payment pending. There we go. This is the actual rule you asked for in the question. Right? Is it payment pending or equal to complete 5 days ago? And if I run this and say, okay, there we go. Few refreshes. All right. Well, yeah, without getting too far in the weeds there, that is how I would approach that problem. Filters on reports, and then you can put as many of those reports and pages and stuff on a dashboard that you would like. Cool. Since we're on reports, I got another question slotted in here. If I want to show the total for a column in a report and place this total exactly under this column, is the feature supported? We do support totaling of columns. I don't believe we have a good way to put it exactly in a specific location. So let me show you what it looks like today and see if this is what you're thinking or if I misinterpreted the questions. But first, totaling columns, yes. You can do math on number columns, or you can count up the number of items like in a group, like by status, and show the results grouped here. So like say, for example, this is an easy one. Say, for example, I wanted to show all the total loss claims, over the past 5 days, right? That's what this report's showing. I can come into here by unselecting any field or filter or any option at the top, go to results, and add a subtotal. I pick what field I'm trying to total up. So I said total loss. Since this is a number field, I get number evaluations here. Do I want to just add them all up together? Do I want to find the average total loss over, the grouping? Do I want to find the minimum, max, etc.? Let's just add them up. I give this a name. We can call it total. I guess we'll call it sum of total loss. And then I show how I want this data to be displayed. So I want it as currency with 2 decimal places or whatever I decide the format of the math to be. I say okay, and when I refresh preview, there we go. When I refresh my preview, here we go at the top. It says all of my total losses summed up to 373,000. At the very bottom is 812,000. If I run my report, I'll see that sum show up here. If I were to regroup and change my report, I'll see the sum change around. So maybe if I try to group it by date, I can now see the sums by date. So this is a dynamic calculation. So I could say, oh, my total loss on the 17th was 306,000. Well, how much of that money is in payment pending? Well, 438,000. So you can do totals of numbers. I can just do counts if I wanted to see the sum there. So I think that answers the first part of your questions. How do I do that? The second one is can I put it exactly under a column? No, unfortunately, the location is fixed to the right side of the grouping and the bottom right of the report. The only other option you'd have is if you wanted to run math on a column by column basis, and you can do a calculated column to actually like put a fifth or sixth column in this report and do some math on it there. That'd be the only time you could put something in a specific location. But that's hopefully the totaling stuff is there. If you do want to move that around or do something special with it, your best bet is to email support and submit a feature request, and we review those regularly. Cool. All right, another one came in. Sorry, hold on, I got to cough again. There we go. It's winter, so we're all, and I have 4 kids, so I'm trying to battle just daycare infestations of bacteria. Anyway, sorry. We have a project where users have to edit years old requests and they keep making changes. They have been getting a lot of flow run errors or exceptions. It only happens to the old request. Do you recommend any preventative maintenance to resolve this issue? There's anything can be done to resolve this, or even the better way to build flows in the future we can follow? That's a wonderful question. This is a little high level. So I don't, there's not much I can share on my screen. Let me think about this. So yes, we run into this a couple of different ways. And so I'm making some assumptions here, so please feel free to clarify. But sometimes when we're building projects, you create a set of data, you then make modifications to the process. We're a workflow no-code tool. That's our job. But you make modifications in a way, maybe you change the workflow process, maybe you change the structure of data, that then when you go to take actions on older sets of data, you're missing fields. Or the process is looking for something that didn't exist at the time you created the first few items. And so you hit exceptions and errors. And I would say that that's unfortunately that happens. Aside from just trying to consider old sets of data and documenting them when you're building enhancements to your tool is just kind of standard SDLC. One thing actually I would recommend doing, at least for your end users or working on it, is capturing these sorts of errors better, and then you can start to programmatically find ways to resolve them. So first and foremost, say I had a flow here. Sure, maybe this generate fake data claim data works, right? Actually, this doesn't work. I have a better example. Let me think of this a second. So like I have an action here that says move to payment pending. Maybe I now move it to a new state that doesn't exist, or maybe the status column didn't used to exist, so I'm trying to reference it so it can't move it because it's trying to find a state that no longer exists. One thing you can do is handle those types of errors more intelligently within this flow specifically. And so we have a number of best practices for this, and we even have a project you can download that does this, and I'll show that in a second, make sure I don't forget. But we want to make sure that you handle and catch errors intelligently, right? So I can catch any error that occurs in this flow. Maybe I knew I made data type changes, maybe I knew I made structure changes, and then do something nice for my users. Maybe my users will just get a pop-up that says, "Hey, we're so sorry, your administrator has been contacted. This is broken." And then maybe I show a form for someone, an assignment for someone to review and say, "Hey, Eric, you have to review anytime this flow hits an error. Here's the assignment. Here, this catch exception step will also give you like the what flow it failed on, what step it failed on, what the message is, etc. And then I can have Eric do something with this. Maybe I go retry the action once I change the data. Maybe I do something else. So this would be step 1. Step 2 is now how do I programmatically fix the data? Maybe, like I mentioned just a second ago, maybe the person who gets this task can manually update the data structure. Oh, we didn't have a status column, so I'm going to set the status column here with a step that says make this better, or update status to pending, and then go retry the action. And if the action fails, it comes back here. Maybe I get so smart that I know this step is the problem because I've caught the exception and found the step error. And so I want to now, if I hit outcomes, specifically catch exceptions for this step and maybe programmatically retry it. So maybe I do it like a loop that says try 3 times to call a service to update the data structure and then send it back through the process. So it's hard without having a real concrete example, but here's the big picture idea is the issue you're hitting is not unique. And that's something that we get as you, especially as you iteratively build projects and data structures and processes and flows. And so being diligent about your designer and developer practices to make sure you consider that is just good best practice. But I would say that leveraging tools like exception handling, giving good messages to the end users, reviewing them with assignments or logging them appropriately, and then taking actions. And then the third step would be how do we programmatically or as part of the process attempt to automatically fix any sort of these issues. That would be the kind of high level pattern I would start to step through to try to figure it out. So a little high level. I think that's something if we wanted to dive into on a one-on-one call, I'm happy to get that set up for you. But yeah, and then William in the chat sent a link to this, which is, oh, that's how to use the catch exception step. Yes, but we also have in our app store, which I won't be, oh, I will be able to hit. Okay. There is an error handling project. Here we go. This error handling project is a pre-built catch exception process that will give you dashboards on reporting these sorts of things, forms to capture and show you what the errors are. Oh, you can show you the picture private preview here, and the flows to do it. So this is something you could implement right away. If you just install this on your decisions environment, you can plug and play the catch exception. It will give it to you in a nicely formatted form and give you a dashboard of them over time, giving it by which project you found the errors in, how many of them have been reviewed, what type of the error was. So you get a really good just dashboard overview of any errors that occur. So as a suggestion or as an opportunity for you, you can download this project, install it in your environment, and then go ahead and just use that catch exception flow, and then you have a pre-built dashboard that will show you all the data about it. So a handy tool for you to get underway with some of that stuff. All right, cool. Let me make sure I got through all the questions. Looks like I did. Got that one questions done. No one has their hand raised. All right, yeah, cool. Halfway through. Anyone on the call have any other questions, things you want to see, things you would like to talk about? Internal team members, anyone want to yell at people? Ooh, good. Someone's coming off you. Yeah, let's go ahead and raise your hand. Go ahead. Hello, good.
Yeah, hi. I try to I use the module RabbitMQ, and what I have done is actually I call a queue from an external system, put a message inside, and wait on another queue to get a response. That works fine. If I put a delay between, then I want to try this message handler.
Okay.
Because when I'm working in a system where I have a lot of users, it's a little difficult if they use all the same queue. I was thinking maybe I use it I use the message handler, but how I can get then the response from a message handler to my workflow? You know what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great question. I'm going to be perfectly blunt and honest. I know very little about how message queues actually get implemented in decisions with like handler flows and stuff. So I'm gonna fail on your question here, but I'm sure you've checked out the documentation. We don't want to go to projects.
Yes.
Yeah. I think the best bet is let's get you connected with. Oh my gosh, I can't spell today. Yeah, the setting up message handlers, like there's this document here which talks about it, and I know conceptually how it works. Where you go ahead and subscribe.
That's
Yeah.
very
Okay.
simple. Yes.
Very simple, yeah. But let's get you connected with someone who actually has like a queue example and can do that. So I'm picking someone on the call. I'm gonna have Jared reach out to you directly right now and at least just get you connected with the right person who knows about message queues. So that they can help you with that handler flow. It'd be good if like we could meet with you, share your screen, and just get you over the hump. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm really bad. I'm really bad at message queues.
Okay. The other question, it doesn't matter if this is messages. Is there a way to send a message from one flow to other and wait for it, like event? No, right?
Oh, yes, totally.
Yes,
That one I
yes.
can answer.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So there is a step in decision. Let me just create a new flow. We'll just say talk to two flows. So there's a cool step in decisions called wait on flow end. So yeah, when you run a flow, so really, so like when you run a flow, you get all sorts of data, right? Like I have who's running the flow, what the portal URL is, what the current user ID that's running it is. One of these values is going to be flow tracking ID, which should just maybe up here under F, flow tracking ID. This is the unique flow for an execute or used ID for an execution of a flow. So if you wanted to say kick off another workflow, you would do this by calling it asynchronously. So you would say start another flow async, which means, normally when I call a subflow here, it's waiting for the flow to complete and then picking it back up. But I can call this asynchronously, pick any flow in the system, which sure, we'll call this action flow. Now, it doesn't matter what this flow is doing. This flow could take 30 hours to complete, and it doesn't matter, and I hand it whatever it needs to run. But you'll see that the output is tracking ID. So when I call another workflow, it's giving me back that flow tracking ID, and then I can process and do whatever I want in the middle and say, but when I get to this step, I need you I need you to wait for this other flow to be done before you move forward. And if that other flow ends in an error, I can handle that a different way if I needed to. So running things asynchronously or getting that tracking ID and then this wait on flow end step, that'd be how you do it.
Okay. That looks fine in one way, but otherwise I thought when I have this message handler, it's running all the time and get the message. And then I just wait that when the message is receiving there, I can send the other one a mail saying, now I get a response. You can continue. That's difficult, right? I
Yeah,
can't
that
see
one.
this pattern.
Yeah, that one's a little bit more different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, what I can do is I can put it somewhere in the table and then ask the other one all the time and
Yeah,
ping for if they have a result. But that's
you totally could. I thought we had a better way to handle that though. I
yeah.
thought there was some default dashboarding and reporting and stuff, but again, this is where my knowledge of message queues is bad.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I think we just get you on with a message queue expert. And unfortunately today that's just not me. Yeah. So Jared will reach out to you because I called him out and he's gonna be mad at me. But he'll reach out to you or get you connected with the right support team member, and we'll make sure we schedule that call right away so you're not waiting on an answer.
Gunnar, just put your email in the chat and I can take care of that right now.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you, Jared.
Yeah, no worries.
See, he's gonna be nice to you now, but he's gonna yell at me after this. All right. Well, I answered some questions, failed in some of the other ones. What other questions do you guys have that I can answer today? We can talk about version 9, which I always offer on every one of these lunch and learns. Yeah, going once. Oh wow, this environment's gotten huge. So I guess I'll just start talking for a minute or two while people think of questions, and if there are none, we can go ahead and end. But Project 9's is getting close. We kicked off our internal intensive beta process this week, and so we've been running really strong and heavy into that, getting a lot of our internal teams in here and converting projects and things, moving things around.
Hey, I got a question for you, Eric.
Ooh, go ahead, Jared.
Hey, where are templates stored in version 9?
Where templates stored in version 9? They'll be project specific.
Okay.
Yeah,
in the settings area.
In the new settings folder. Yeah, so in version 9 for everyone else, we've done this thing where we've put everything into independent, discrete projects. And so now when you're building in decisions, your top level organization is going to be in these groups of work called projects. Now, because of that, we've limited what you can do inside of a project to only the work that exists in a project, which makes your design experience a lot more consistent and a lot less prone to like accidentally using some dependency and creating this big massive web that's hard to deploy and move in, et cetera. So it improves developer confidence and stability. Now, one of the kind of products of that is, say I'm in this flow and I want to call another workflow from another project, I can't out of the box. I can only see things in my current project, and I'd have to declare a dependency across multiple projects. So if I say, oh, well, I do want to use something in ECW Sandbox that exists somewhere else, I have to come to the dependencies as a manager, come in and say, let's go ahead and use the documentation test project. Now I can start referencing entities inside of here and use them in my workflows, et cetera. Anyway, all that to say, the other byproduct of this is that there's a number of things in the system folder that now we can scope into specifically projects. So for example, some things like logging and event monitoring, looking at the running flows and health of a project, being able to set up things like we used to be a system constant, some data set or variable that's only now germane or specific to a project. So we can set up project constants. Jared's question was around, if I create like a flow and I say, well, I want to now make this a template, right? Like I want to say this becomes a template for someone else to use. Well, now this template is also going to be project specific. So it'll be stored in this new project settings folder, and I'll only be able to use that template if I'm part of the project. So you'll notice this on the version 9 stuff that we've moved around the kind of some of the things you would typically find in like the system folder. They are now going to be project specific and found inside of here. Now, ignore the coloring and things. This is an in progress project. A much better example of it will actually be down here. Oh, I guess I just upgraded. Never mind. But each of these are going to have their own dashboards. They're going to have the ability to come in and change like the icon and folder name. I can come run error handling and set that up globally across the project. So all of that you'll find specific to the project itself.
What about flow step templates? Like I have a series of steps that I make as a template.
That's a good question. I believe they're also stored there. I believe all templated things are going to be stored in that same folder. But
which folder was that?
They are. I just checked.
Okay.
Look at that. Look at that internal teamwork. So yes, they should be moved into there. What Jared is talking about is you can take groups of steps together. Like say I really like these 4 steps generating fake data. I should click all of them then. You can say group these together and save it as a template. Now this lives in the toolbox. So I can say generate data template. I can save this. You'll now see a new category here called templates. I can find this, I drag it over, it's my 4 steps. Now, the definition and storage of these things is also project specific. So it'll be stored in the settings folder here. I'd have to find it probably under configuration templates. Here we go. So they'll be stored into here. Email templates, so that's for the email templates. I'll double check exactly where they go. But I'm going to trust Will. I think it was who said that he confirmed they're all in there. But yeah, this is a very quick intro to version 9. It's you're going to get a ton of dashboarding about what's going on inside of your project. You get this limited scope. With this, you're going to get a bunch of new insights and views into your project, like health. Like for example, my move to payment pending step flow is not very healthy because I don't have any unit tests. I have inputs and data that I'm not using, bad descriptions on them, etc. I can do the dependency thing I talked about. I can see an entire historical kind of auditing view of everything that's happened to my project over time. I could see all of the integrations that I've enabled in my flow, or my project. So if I take a flow and say, hey, workflow, you now can be called as an API. And sure, I'll use all the defaults for now because I don't really care. Now at the top project level view, I can go in and say, show me all my flows and rules I've exposed as a service. I could even come in and test them. So if I wanted to put in data and execute them and see what the data comes out as a test. I can see them here. And I can even download the definition of these things as Postman, Swagger, or JMeter. So lots of cool things you can do there. Anyway, I could go for hours, and I will go for hours about projects when we do our official kind of launch webinar in a couple weeks here. But a little bit of a teaser, a little bit of a preview. It's going to be a drastic improvement to the way that you work within decisions and the way that you can find the work that you're using, test it, run it well, audit those sorts of things, and then eventually deploy that across environments. That's kind of the focus and goal here. All right, I've dawdled. I see no new questions, no hands raised. Yeah, I'll go ahead and just wrap things up then. Thank you all for joining. We do this every Monday through Thursday, so check back next Monday for the next version of this, or the next decisions expert who's on. We'll get in touch with you, Gunnar, for those questions around message queues. And otherwise, I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and we'll catch you the next one. So take care, everyone.